Welcome to Eager Space. This video is intended to answer a specific question. Why would anybody give Spinlaunch $150 million? If you want my detailed analysis of Spinlaunch, you can watch this video. The big problem with the Spinlaunch approach is pretty simple. Let's say you're a small company like BlackSky, and you're looking for a launch provider for your Earth observation satellites. If you want to consider Spinlaunch, you'll need to ask yourself a simple question. Are you willing to design your payload to survive 10,000 Gs of acceleration? If the answer is yes, then you should consider launching on Spinlaunch. If the answer is no, then you were stuck with launching on any other launch provider. The problem is that I can't see any world in which a satellite company would answer yes to this question. Doing that design work is going to cost time and money, and will likely result in a satellite that is both more expensive and less capable, and is not part of the expertise that you want to develop in your company. If you do decide to take on that design work, it's only useful if and when Spinlaunch gets their system up and running. Maybe there's a world someday where you could launch commodities like water using a technology like Spinlaunch, but there's no market right now. I don't think I have a particularly unique analysis ability. There were lots of people who doubted the viability of Spinlaunch, but venture capital funds still gave them $150 million. To explain how that happened, we'll need to talk a bit about venture capital. Venture capital is a weird world, weird enough that I'm going to do a separate video on it. For now, there are two things you need to know. The first is that venture capital funds invest in companies that have a high chance of failure. They therefore diversify by investing in a lot of companies, at least 10 up to perhaps 30 different investments. The goal is to invest in enough companies so that some of the investments will do very well, enough to make the overall investment worthwhile. The second thing is that venture capital funds claim to be uniquely qualified to identify promising companies and help them become successful. Each fund comes with a prospectus, and it'll say things like this. We carefully select firms that not only have excellent potential, but also will benefit from the group's expertise and assistance. The prospectus for a given VC fund will both tell you how great they are and how risky investing in their fund is. What they don't tell you is that venture capital is a market in the economic sense, but it's a little weird in market terms. The sellers are the companies that are trying to raise capital. They need money, and they are willing to sell partial control in their company, equity ownership in investment terms, in return for that money. The buyers are the venture capital funds. They look through all the companies that have ideas and choose the best ones. This is a high supply, low demand market condition. The VC funds can be very selective in who they choose to invest in, and they will only invest in the ones that they think are the best choices. This is historically one of the problems for space companies. Even good startups couldn't get the money that they needed to be successful. If we look at 2016, there was only about $172 million in VC capital invested in space. The venture capital investors didn't find space to be attractive, but about that time a company that you might have heard of showed up and showed a lot of potential. More investors wanted to make money, and more aerospace venture capital funds got started. Many more funds pop up, and there's a lot more money looking for a place to invest. Maybe a few new good prospects crop up, but the number of the companies is fairly static. That puts us in a low supply, high demand market condition. There are many more fund managers wanting to invest, and they're all competing for the limited supply of companies. There are only three options for the funds in this environment. They could simply choose not to invest. I won't go into the details here, but for most targeted funds it looks really bad to tout how great you are at choosing investments, and then not actually choose to invest. The second option is to throw more money at the companies they do select. This is fairly common because it's simple for funds to do, and the fund investors have no idea how much money is appropriate. But overfunding a company can be as bad as underfunding. They may waste money rather than deploying it effectively. The third option is to lower their due diligence review standards. There simply aren't enough great prospects out there, and that forces you to choose not so great prospects. If we look at the time period when Falcon 9 was starting to fly a lot, we see a lot of new money compared to 2016. 6 times the money in 2018 and over 20 times the money by 2020. If we overlay the investments in Spinlaunch on this chart, we see that the company had very good timing, looking for money when there was lots of funds looking to make investments. The value of timing is often overlooked. In my video, How SpaceX Might Have Failed, I discussed the multiple places where SpaceX not only had the right plan, but was in the right place at the right time. And that is the answer to our question. Spinlaunch was able to raise $150 million in funding because there were more funds looking to invest than great places to invest. And that's all for this video. Today's song is David Bowie's Fame off the 1974 album Young Americans.